Murder style, y'all.
Insanity, insanity, whatever happened to humanity? Ooh.
Summoner 2 is an action role-playing game that has been released in 2002 that takes place after the previous installment Summoner that has been developed by THQ and been published by Volition. In this game, you play as Maya, Queen of Halasar, who is a goddess of Lohara Reborn and can transform herself into a variety of summonable creatures. Maya must use her summoning abilities to heal the legendary Tree of Elah, the source of IOC, and the language of creation. Along the way, she soon meets familiar characters to help her along her journey. I love Summoner so much. And after I played the first one and reviewed it, I had became a huge Summoner fan. So much so that when I found out they made a second one, I was instantly on board and I instantly ended up buying it. But the bad news is that by me jumping so quickly onto the Summoner 2 game, I did not know how long I was going to have to spend on this game. I thought I'd play it for a week and then I'll be done with it and I'll review it and I'll just show you guys my opinion on it. But no, this game pushed me back so much so to the point where I had to kill everything. I was doing other reviews too and posting other content also on my channel just so I can keep you guys alive and keep my channel up and running. But Summoner 2 has put me into a stressful state to the point where I literally had to take a week off from my channel just so I could finish this. Yes, this was the game that made me want to take a break from YouTube and post some material because I had to get this review done. Everything that I have posted on my channel after the Summoner review, I was focusing on this one. And now since I was able to push it out here and get it done, let's just say I have to thank you fans for being so patient and just literally bearing with me to this because it was worth it. The game picks up pretty quickly, just like the first one. But unlike the first one, it shows you the tutorial and how everything starts off in one big setting. As you play as the main character, Maya, you get ship ran by all these other people that is trying to raid you. And while that happens, it basically gives you combat maneuvers of how to control your character, how you fight, how you block, and just how you use counterattacks. Now, it's not like the first one when it comes to the combat and using the directional pad, use up and down to use varieties of movesets with your character, Joseph. But with this game, they want to give you more of a melee feel to it by you pressing square, triangle, circle to maneuver your character's moveset. I thought it was great. Anyone that has played God of War and played Heavenly Sword will will have familiar gestures to this game too, especially if they love the two franchises. Even though the game's combat is different from the first one, it is polished too. I didn't really have a problem with the first one being as different with the combat scenarios, but I kind of was missing it. But this one made for it. I loved it. And at the same time, it was more fluid in a way. Because I feel like by this being a sequel to the first one, they're going to add some things and they're going to take a couple steps back. But with Summoner 2, the only thing they took away from, well, one of the only things they took away from was the combat simulator. You just knowing how to use the directional pad. And I quickly got used to it. But at the same time, the enemies was more fast-paced, more intense, and more engaging. As for the characters that you choose into this journey too, each of these characters that I chose to help me out on this journey was just as fast, just as engaging, just as intense, and just as powerful. And they did not stud out for the new combat scenarios that was introduced to me and the players as well. I was actually getting Dragon Age vibes playing this too. Now, unfortunately, they don't have dragons on this game, which now I'm thinking about it. They don't got dragons. Why not? I don't know. But the reason why I'm saying this game was giving Dragon Age Inquisition vibes because of how things are when it comes to the strategic way of how you do things. Just like Summoner, you need a strategy guide. You need a strategy guide, or you at least need a YouTube playthrough to help you complete these tasks in this game. Just like Summoner, the original one in 2000, they're not going to hold you by the hand of how to do things and how to complete things. When they tell you how to get there, you need to find out how to get there your own way. And from a typical RPG just like this, I did not mind that, especially since I already knew how the first Summoner game was. So I already knew what I was getting myself into, which is not a problem, which is not a flaw, but it's something for you guys to be aware of when you jump into the franchise itself. Speaking of side characters, you are introduced with these side characters pretty quickly on this game. Practically so quick to the point where you are not even familiarized with the main character Maya before they end up throwing you all these other characters. And that's not a bad thing. I feel like by us knowing Maya's character and by her being the main heroine of Halazar, I need to know her comrades and I need to know what she stands for. So they introduced us with two characters, Sangiri and Tartarus. I love them both, especially Sangiri. She is the stealth character of this game, and she takes so much damage when it comes to her inflicting certain assassination sets and inflicting poison on enemies. Tartarus is the brute. Tartarus is a freaking walking cannon. Most of these characters that is new to the new Summoner game will identify as the characters from the first one. You're going to have a trickster, you're going to have a mage, you're going to have a character that takes so much damage, and you're going to have a character that can familiarize with all three of them, so you have to level them up pretty quickly. From a strategic strategy game like this, it's no difference, especially if you're already familiar with the first Summoner game. But if you aren't familiar with the first Summoner game and you're jumping into this one, you are going to be in for a stressful ride of how you can maneuver to these characters and how to level them up correctly. But if you're like me, if you played the first one and already been through that strategic hell, you already know which way of how to level up each of these characters and how to use their movesets and how to use their armor correctly, especially when it comes to the enemies coming at you. Since these side characters are easily developed, that doesn't mean that these enemies are eating spring chicken. These enemies are even tougher than the first one. These enemies sticks to more ballistics and mostly environmental and elemental states to keep you on your toes. I died so much on here more than the first one. I really felt like I was doing something wrong, but I was doing everything right. But at the same time, I was not aware of how the enemies was coming at me. On the first Summoning game, you was focused more on just hand-to-hand combat, and the elementals and the magic was just a hand gesture of you just using quick ways to defeat your enemies. But no, on Summoner 2, you have that advantage here, but so does the enemies. The enemies use more magic than anything. And I'm going to have to tell you right now, each time you do a mission or you're just roaming around, make sure you have a mage that can use healing, use buffs, and at the same time use elemental tricks to defeat enemies, and make sure that they know what weaknesses these enemies have. Because it's like Pokemon. Enemy use electric, fire, water, poison, or undead. You have to find ways to make your elemental moves super effective. If not, you're gonna take less than 10 hit damage from these enemies. And that's gonna show you that you're doing something fucking wrong. And it will let you know that too. Since I'm talking about the combat, let's talk about the main cause of the game and what makes it stand out from a lot of RPG games, and that is the summoning itself. The summoning is great. It's actually more freaking badass than the first one. I just love the fact that unlike your main character Joseph that can summon certain creatures and stuff, you can actually become the creatures. As you play with Maya, you begin to come across these little portals that can give you these summoning abilities. You can transform to each of these summoning creatures, a blood type, a tree type, an eye type, and each of them have elemental abilities. And man, they hit fucking hard if you know how to attack your enemies correctly. But here's the bad part. Unlike Summoner 1, the first one, when you summon a creature, you can use them how long you want to, but on this one, they have a time limit. Aww. And that's a letdown. And I kind of figure since they know that these summon abilities are OP and very tough and very hard to take down, they want to add a time limit to these summons just so they can have like a little bit of a balanced gesture. It's a letdown in my opinion, but at the same time, it's still enjoyable. In fact, since there is a time limit span on it, I feel like by you knowing it's going to be over, you have more fun playing with it since it's limited. Since I'm talking about the mixtures of the good and bad, let's talk about the camera. The camera problem is still there. The camera issue is still there, angling is still wrong, but it's a little bit more polished because I noticed that on the camera angle on the first Summoner game, man, it was a hot mess. In fact, it was making me nauseous. I was getting sick, and at the same time, I was having aiming issues when it came to healing certain characters, and I had to make sure they was right on the fucking screen. On Summoner 2, it didn't matter. Even if it was on the screen, or even if it wasn't on the screen, I could still heal them, or I could still give them elemental abilities. But it depends on how close they was to me. If they wasn't close to me, I had to literally get them close to me so I can be able to heal them. Or at the same time, if they was too far, then I would have to find them. And thank God I could switch out the character so I could see where they was, because man, there were times where I was leaving and I couldn't progress to a certain area because they were stuck into another door, or they was stuck into certain walls and stuff. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? But thank God for the character mixtures, so you can switch them out so you can see what's going on. And I think that's the only reason why you can do that, other than you fighting other enemies. The game also has satisfying Easter eggs too. By this being a sequel, I thought they was going to abandon every single thing that was on the first one, even though this game takes place 20 years later. But no, they did not abandon anything at all on the first one. They actually show characters on the first one that we know and miss, like Rosalind. I was so happy to see Rosalind again, even though she was one of my favorite main characters on the game. They even showed Joseph too, and I don't want to spoil you. I do not want to spoil what Joseph's purpose is on this one, but he does play a major part. They even show Yago. And even though Yago didn't really do much on the first one, you can actually play as Yago on this one. And I was like, holy shit. And he is no spring chicken. He is a very fucking powerful dude. And it did not just make me get satisfied with him, but it also made me want to go back to the regular Summoner game and just backtrack. It just made me just relive those memories again, except the issues that I mentioned on the first review. Overall, Summoner is a very good game. Summoner 2 is a very, 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 very good game, especially when you know the terminology of the Summoner franchise itself. It does not shit on the original. And I was scared because by sequels happening, especially in this day and age, it normally doesn't hold the torch of what we know and love from the original. But Summoner 2 held that, and it carried it, and it held me over from flying colors, especially the ending. I was satisfied with the ending, even though I was stressed out, I was dying so much, and I was really on the verge of just quitting the game. But the ending, especially with the main boss, it was more than just stressful. It was to put my limitations and for me to put my resources and everything that I knew to the final test. By me seeing if I leveled every single character up in the right way, and me knowing how to defeat certain elemental enemies when it comes to them using certain weaknesses against me. I did not have no problem with that. At one point I did, but when I figured that out, I was like, okay, I get it now. I was satisfied of how everything played out with the second one. And games like this not only make me be on the verge of just hoping that they continue on with the franchise, but it shows me that there is still hope for sequels being better than the original. I'm going to have to give Summoner 2 an A-. Guys, again, I really apologize for taking so long with this damn review. This was unacceptably long. But playing Summoner 2 actually let me realize how many things that they have fixed. First of all, I have went through no glitches other than the camera. The game has not froze not one time.
No way!
I know, right? That is crazy. No key unappearing glitches to the point where I had to literally hack the game like I did the first one just so I can complete it. And at the same time, the game also has like a little bit of a fun Easter egg thing where they show Maya in the limousine just because he's just talking about how stressful she was being a part of the game and just the things she had to go through and obstacles that she had to come across. It felt like she knew the pressure we fans had to go through and the developers as well. I thought that was a pretty good treat. But one thing I need to mention though is that Volition made this game that I mentioned in the headline. And you know what else they made and they remastered? Yeah. Now, that's a bad sign right there. But honestly, despite all the bullshit that people are saying about this game, I like it, but not in the way of me being a fan. This is the first Saints Row game I've ever played, but I'm saying that to say this. Volition, y'all remastered Saints Row, which I don't think it was necessary. Please remaster this, please. Make a Summoner and Summoner 2 remaster. I'm pretty sure it will sell well. Did that have to end already? Jesus Christ. Anyway, that's all I have to say for today. Please stay tuned for more upcoming reviews and videos headed your way. This is Hugo, your critic teacher, and you guys have a good day.